Good morning, everybody. Hello. Happy Monday. Welcome back to another Market Open. It is June 5th, 2023, 9:21 a.m. Thank you, 106 people being here. It is time to start the morning. It is time to get ready for a new week in June. And it's time to see what the markets got cooking once again on this beautiful planet. Broccoli Bob, Kaladin, Rafi, Jim, Anthony, Pete, Kane, Invisible Voices, Cold Monkey, Martin, Christian Baza, Arcaze, Bazahi, Ryan, Miles, Jim, Cameron, Jason, Ray, Cameron, Russ. I've repeated some names again. Jude, Delty, Studio Sports. Good morning from Canada. Thank you all for being here. We've got a lot to talk about on this Market Open. The first thing we've got to talk about, obviously, is the biggest news of the day. Which is a piece of news that just came out this morning. You know, you think that so much news is coming, and you're like, look, there's not that much news that's going to keep coming. And then the news just keeps coming. So we're going to cover this quickly. I'm going to do a video on this a little bit later. Not going to spend too much time on it. But then after this, we're going to get right into some of the more other starts of the morning of the things that are going on in the morning. We have WWDC, which is going to be a really big deal today. WWDC, Apple's biggest event. We'll be live streaming that on Finance Junkies on the new channel for that today. And they are rumored to announce a headset. And that headset might end up being one of the most revolutionary things that we've seen in the past decade, or it might be a flop. So we're going to see what happens. Big news of the day, U.S. Special Operations Command awards a contract to Palantir. The U.S. Special Operations Command, which is in charge of the military, gave Palantir a contract to deliver technology solutions to support enterprise capabilities. The multi-year contract is worth up to $463 million. This is $500 million contract for an AI imposter, as the Bear Cave said just a couple of days ago as they released this short report. I just want to read these two paragraphs, and then we'll move on from this. But this is a really big deal. Again, video will come a little bit later talking deeply about this. Palantir is driving rapid innovations across its defense portfolio. These include advancements in LLMs to reduce cognitive load on warfighters and commanders, as well as advancements in edge processing and edge AI to maximize the warfighter's ability to integrate and utilize real-time information. So for all the artificial intelligence imposter accusations that Palantir has achieved, it is now implementing LLMs and AI infrastructure into the military at the tune of $500 million, which I guess you can conclude if it's an imposter or not. Quote from Akash Jain, our partnership is an example of converting software innovation into real battlefield advantage. They are at the heart of the forefront of adopting leading edge technology. Just as the pointy end on the spear of the battlefield, they often find themselves playing in the same role in innovation. We look forward to helping the command maintain its decision advantage into the next era of competition. They also say that this contract is a result of the trust built on more than a decade of work between our communities. So for all the Palantir competitors, do you have a decade of work built that creates the establishment of trust and is a real affirmation of Palantir's commitment to always provide the most capable software for the U.S. warfighters who need it the most? This is just another part of the moat of Palantir. When you get these types of defense contracts that are worth $500 million, only companies can do it that have been in the thick and thin of what it means to be a defense contractor and work with the United States government. So very big deal for Palantir. We'll see how many years this deal is. We'll probably get some more details later, probably 4 or 5 years. But just another contract that is added into Palantir's war chest. Is anyone getting fake Twitter messages from Amit, Vitalian, Carlos? Yeah, there are some imposter bots. So please, I will never message you for money or Bitcoin or anything like that. I don't even own any Bitcoin. So if you see that, please just block it or ignore it. All right. So the other news I want to get in today is obviously we've got WWDC, but I want to look at some of the charts. So the S&P 500 is at one of its highest levels in 2023. And the reason it is primarily because of 5 companies: Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Apple, and we'll throw Meta into there. If you have not been in big tech, the majority of these 6 months going into June 5th, 2023 has likely not been the best year for you. Either, and this is including myself, right? Either you have been, look at the S&P, 428.25. It's getting close to breaking 430. This is absolutely insane. If you have, and 5 companies have essentially created the rally, right, in the S&P. 495 companies have not really lived up to, earnings potentials, but 5 companies have done a really good job. If you were heavy big tech, heavy Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, Google, or Meta, you are having a phenomenal year, just given how those stocks have performed. If you have not been heavy big tech, meaning you really allocated your capital to more speculative plays, small caps, or companies that are just growing, maybe you were overweight Palantir, which means you've had a good year in the past five weeks now. But if you were heavy big tech for the past 6 months, you've had a really good year. If you are not, then your year hasn't been that good. And so I bring this up to say that we have seen the greatest inflow of cash into big tech stocks, large cap stocks, basically the 7 or 8 that I mentioned above, than we have seen in the past 6 months. Last week, I was reading a report this morning on the Wall Street Journal, was the biggest inflow of cash. So Amazon at $124, Tesla not really included in that, but still Tesla doing phenomenally well. Look at that, Tesla at $217. Nvidia not also included in that, but Nvidia still had an amazing run. You got Palantir, $14.33 pre-market. Obviously, Google has hit 124. Meta hitting all-time highs, or at least 2023 highs at 272. So the question is, why is this happening? And it seems like the reason big tech has controlled the majority of the rally that has happened over the past really couple months is because investors wanted safety. And if investors wanted safety, that means you need high free cash flow. You need definitely profitability. You need businesses that can live up to their earnings potential, which big tech has absolutely smashed their earnings potential. Even though their fundamental businesses might be under threat because of artificial intelligence, they've sort of manipulated the market to believe, and manipulated, I don't mean in a negative sense, that they can use AI to enhance their businesses, right? Google with Bard and Meta with their AI language translators, Amazon implementing AI into advertising, et cetera, et cetera. So as a result of that, companies allocation managers wanted these two things. They wanted large cap tech exposure because they wanted profitability, but then they also wanted AI. And that's the next narrative that has been going on throughout the entire markets. AI, C3 AI down 3%. If you are in AI or if you are in large cap tech, you had a great year. And if you are in any of these other stocks, maybe on an individual level, for example, SMCI, you're doing great at 219. You're doing great if you're in SoFi. If you load it up around 4 or 5, you're doing pretty awesome. But if you're in some of these other stocks like ARK Innovation, I mean, it's had an okay year, but it's not had a monster year, right? You could have had your money in Facebook and done way better than just having your money in ARK. And so that's been kind of the narrative that has been compounding. Now, what's going to happen in the next 2 minutes is we're going to see if this narrative holds up. We've got the S&P in the pre-market basically saying, yes, the narrative is real, now hitting 428. And it's a question if greed is controlling the market, and if you miss that big tech rally, do you jump in now because you think there's more upside? Or do you wait because you don't think there's enough upside, and ultimately you're going to have to be scared of where it's going to go from here? Damn, bro, I just sent you 10K on Bitcoin. What you mean? Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Loaded on SoFi $5 calls. Yeah, if you bought those at $4.70, I mean, that was pretty amazing to do. Holding Tesla, Palantir, SoFi. This has been probably a good week for you. No wise Palantir dropping. I think one thing we have to remember about Palantir is, again, even if it drops into the 13s, even if it drops into the 12s, this was a stock that was $7.28 on May 4th. It is June 5th. It is up more than 100%. So we've got to be very cautious just about, the way we look at the price, because if it declines, it's still up significantly from just a month ago. And so for me, I'm enjoying the ride, right? If it goes to 15, 16, I'll love it. If it even stays in the 12 area, I will still be very happy. I will also be able to, purchase a little bit more, but it will also just be a more sustained momentum. If you see it not run up to 16 or 17, that's actually very healthy. The question is now, does Wall Street feel that the AI hype that they've given to Palantir in terms of valuation? Because remember, this valuation run up was not because of growth, not because Palantir announced anything. It was solely based on the trust that Wall Street has that AI is the future and Palantir is an AI play. And they've given billions of dollars of value at the tune of almost $10 billion of market cap increase to validate that assumption. Now it's up to Palantir to be able to show what it is. I did a review of Karp's interview on Bloomberg on Sunday, and Karp said they're getting a year's worth of demand in a month. If that is the case, then we should see revenue growth in Q3, Q4. And if that happens, then it's going to be pretty phenomenal. All right, 9:30 a.m., June 5th, 2023. Let's see what this market has in store for us. The stock market is now open. Who needs coffee when you've got the other C word? A cowbell. All right, Palantir 1444, just down just a little bit, 0.5% pre-market. As the market opens, let's see where it goes from there. S&P 428, SoFi raising to 710, holding the sevens very strong. Not bad for SoFi. SMCI at 220, Palantir now in the green at 1454. Meta 271, holding nice at the 270s. Meta is now a $700 billion company, $696 billion market cap. Let's see if Meta fills the gap up to 300, because if that happens, then you're talking about close to an $800-900 billion company as we get into Meta. I think 321 is when it gets to $1 trillion. Google is at 124, Square 63. We had a nice little debate about this on the SoFi Weekly podcast. Tanner is very bullish. Me and Steven were just kind of like, we don't really get it. But Hindenburg short report didn't necessarily get Square to go down as much as they thought it would go down. Amazon at 123. Amazon is now entering the mobile phone business. Put it in the chat. Would you switch your mobile phone carrier if a Prime membership, which is about $120 a year, for an extra $10 a month would give you unlimited internet and unlimited service? Would you switch? Because I'm paying right now $70 to $80 for service and internet. I would pay $10 a month immediately to Amazon. And that would be big competition for some of the big guys. Look at Tesla. Look at Tesla, 219. The stock was 162 just a couple of weeks ago. So let's do some quick math right there. We've got 219 minus 162 divided by 162. The stock is up 35.185%, baby. Elon has done a pretty good job getting the Twitter stuff off of his back and giving it to Linda Yaccarino. TFC 32.44 up 1.12%. Western Alliance up 3%, and PacWest up 5.6%. So the regionals are up. The market's starting to recognize that some of the regionals are doing pretty okay. Palantir at 14.50, relatively flat, but not dropping as much as we thought it might drop in the pre-market. Is it AI hype, or is that just the way the media is framing it? No, I think it is a little bit of AI hype. I mean, so here's my response to this. It's not AI hype in the context of AI is real and is transformational. Hype doesn't imply that the tech isn't real. Hype implies that the valuations are getting overstretched because the market thinks there are so many, there's not that many places to go, so they're piling all their money into one place. My opinion is if the hype is validated, it's not hype, because then the premium on the valuation was justified because not only the tech was real, but the ability for the company to execute on that technology was also real. And I think Palantir, how many more contracts do we need to get? How many more case studies do we need to see before we realize that this is going to be a really big deal? And it does seem like it is a big deal for Palantir. Okay, 2 quick announcements. Number 1, I'm having a special guest on the live stream on June 7th. He is a big member of the Palantir community, Keith Scott Fitzgerald. This is a guy that a lot of people have seen on Fox Business, on CNBC, etc. He's been very publicly bullish about Palantir. He will be joining the live stream at around 9:40 on Friday. He's one of the more mainstream figures in the media who is bullish on Palantir, who's agreed to come on the live stream. So it's going to be super cool to have him. So Wednesday, 9:40 a.m., make sure you're there. It's going to be super fun to have someone from the mainstream there. Second announcement, I will be debating the Palantir Bear Cave dude, Edwin, the guy who wrote the short report, tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Tomorrow night at 8 p.m. It's already on YouTube. You can press the notification bell. It will be there. I will be asking him some questions. He graciously agreed to come on the live show. I didn't even ask him to come on the live show. He messaged me. He said, hey, do you want to see the full article? Because I wasn't paying for that shit. And I was like, sure. By the way, do you want to talk about your article? He was like, yeah, I'd love to have a nice, respectful conversation about the article. So we're going to have a conversation about his bear report on Tuesday, 8 p.m. So make sure you are there. All right, Palantir at 1460 now. Wow, 1460 to 1448. So there's a lot of momentum going on right now. Look at that. You see that? 1462 to like 1448. It's moving violently. Wow. So we must getting either some big buys or some big sells. And say, wow, look at SoFi. Holy crap. Look at SoFi. Oh my goodness. Wow. Oh boy. Yeah, let's just say some of these calls I have are printing really big. Wow. Oh, wow. That's a lot of money. I just looked at my portfolio. Okay. SoFi is at 736. I'm sure anyone who had SoFi is looking at some of their portfolios right now, and it's going up. So we've got SoFi up pretty aggressively right now at 733, up 4.5%. SMCI at 222, S&P at 428, Palantir at 1463. Look at that. You see where it's going? 1455, 1464. Is that a Webull thing, or is that how the market's actually fluctuating? Because that's just like literally going up and down aggressively. TFC 3216. So regionals are up. SoFi, wow, man, what a move. 4%. Now let's see if they can maintain that, but goodness, that's beautiful. That is high. And Palantir also in the green. C3 AI, a Palantir competitor, which by the way, I have a video coming out today, which I think everyone should watch. It exposes CNBC did some great investigative journalism that the CEO of C3 AI said that they have 12,000 people selling their software. That was a lie. They do not have 12,000 people selling their software. So the guy who investigated Theranos is now investigating C3 AI he's leading the lawsuit because investors are suing them because they're like, you lied to us. Obviously, we would have invested if we thought you had 12,000 people on a sales force, but you don't. They barely have like 100. So they're like, this is BS. Like, you artificially inflated the stock price, making us think you did that. The CEO said he never said that. And then in the video that I'm going to make today, there's recordings of the dude literally saying we have 12,000 people selling our software, which you don't. I mean, that's a gross exaggeration of how many people are selling the software. So C3 AI now at $31.70. It is down in a market where AI stocks are up. Palantir at 1471, 1464. Again, these are aggressive declines, right? It went from 1473 to 1470, 1458 in seconds. I'm not sure why it's being that aggressive, but it is being pretty aggressive. Usually you see a couple of cents, not necessarily like 10 or 20 of cents in between. Nvidia barely down as well, holding 391 as we see things going. My SoFi is at 5. Your average is at 5. Thanks for that one. That's amazing. Shout out to Quarantine Quartet. That is actually phenomenal. Amid SoFi is going up to FIS embedded finance report. I think I saw something like this on Twitter. If you can put the link in the chat so I can pull it up, that'd be amazing. Because I don't think I fully got to see it. But yes, please put that in the chat. Amit be like, let's do some quick math, and proceeds to suck at it. I love the percentage increase or decrease formula because, the sad thing is my mom was a math teacher, and I just kind of like, I didn't want to say I suck at math, but I wasn't the best at math. And as a result of that, that's kind of just how things played out. But so if I can do math on the spot, I sound really, really smart. All right, let's take a look at this. I think it's a great clip kind of highlighting what's going on in the market right now with tech stocks, especially why there's momentum and where the momentum is coming from. So let's take a look at this, and we'll keep going from there as the S&P 500 hits 2023 all-time highs.
View on the broader markets. Are you concerned that we may be seeing an AI, a tech bubble that could burst and impact the S&P 500? About a quarter of the main index is big tech.
Yeah, no, I mean, this has been talked about ad nauseum, right, over the last several weeks or months even. And I know you mentioned bearish sentiment from the pros. Well, they've been bearish all year and they've missed the run up. And what we saw last week was the greatest inflow into tech equities last week all year long. And
again, what she says, if you've been bearish all year, you missed the run up. You have to wait for Meta to go back down to 120, for Amazon to go back down to 80. And it's just going to be hard if the earnings are good. Like it's 2 + 2 = 4. If the earnings are good, the market's not going to put their money in bonds. They're going to put their money in companies that have high free cash flow and are getting profits. And big tech has that.
This is concerning because it comes at a point where tech valuations look pretty stretched on both a PE basis and a PEG basis, so price to earnings growth. So I think that we're in this place where it's precarious about where we go forward from here. But what I do think was a positive was on Friday, we did see an expansion into other parts of the market to start to perform better. So industrials and materials actually turned positive on a year-to-date basis on Friday after that move in the market overall.
All right, so Lindsay, I want to ask you, you were just kind of questioning smart money as hedge funds and these other big investors are often called. And you're saying,
guys, SoFi is at 745. It's up 6%. All right, let's finish this because he's going to ask a good question, but then we'll go back to the markets.
And they missed part of this rally. But the point that we're looking at back here is 2007, right before the Great Recession, they had this view. And now we're facing another potential recession. So is there some wisdom in looking at the moves they're making?
Sure. You know what? There's always wisdom to look at the past, right?
Okay.
But history is never any guarantee. Okay. So I think that's one thing to remember. And then another thing on the flip side of that, Frank, what I would say is Ryan Dietrich, a good friend of mine, he did some work over the weekend and we're almost 20% off the bottom of the bear market here. And his historical data shows that once the market rebounds 20% off the low, it has always continued to end positively.
So that's a big point. The historical data shows that once the market rebounds 20% off the low, it maintains its positive run. Now, again, you can give historical data whatever you weight you want to give to it, but historical data does matter at some level, right? Because we're looking at charts, we're looking at how the S&P tends to move, which means if history is any case, then because we've moved off the bottom 20%, then we're likely going to end in the green and end positively. The other piece of news is that whenever we are in a year after the midterms, so the midterms was in 2022, at least for the United States, the year after the market rallies on average 15%. This has happened since 1958, that the market has gone down about 8% the year, the market goes down 15% the year of the midterms, and it rallies 32% on average, which is net 15 if you're covering the losses from last year, the year after the midterms. And 2023 is a year after the midterms. Now, I haven't looked into the historical data for an election year, which is 2024, but in terms of the year after an election, that's fine. Look at Palantir, 1489. Here we go, up 2.4%. Again, this is do you guys see this? Am I crazy? Do you see it going from 1470 to 1485, or is that just me? Like, is that happening on your tickers as well, or is that just me? I'm looking at Robinhood. I'm trying to see if the same thing's happening on Robinhood. The volume on Palantir is 8 million in 11 minutes. Yeah, no, it's not me. It's happening on Robinhood. It's going from 1472 to 1485. And that's very weird. I don't know if that's some manipulation. I have not seen that in the past 9 months covering any stock, seeing 18-cent movements in milliseconds. That is very interesting. We got SoFi at 747. There was a great guy on Twitter, Jesse Dow. He was comparing the charts, and he was doing some really good analysis. And with the macro changing, with student loans coming into place, with the market starting to realize how the price to book was under 1, or probably not under 1 anymore, but it was under 1 last couple of days, SoFi could start really getting some momentum and start making some inroads past a lot of these different prices, especially when there's not that many negative catalysts. All of the negative catalysts have happened because the stock was at $21 at one point, right? What was the max? The stock was 28 at one point on February 2021. We've got the decline to 424. This was the bad part. And now it's a question of, is the earnings good enough and the macro starting to get better enough, i.e. a pause, to be able to justify further momentum? And it seems like that is going to end up being the case. Nvidia at $394, just $6 away from 400. Intel at 31. Target still continuing its lows. Target's lost about $9 billion in sales from some political stuff that's going on. So Target right now at 132. NASDAQ, look at that, 13,279. The NASDAQ also doing phenomenally right now. Palantir is $16 today. Let's see. We got to get through 15. We got to get the fight for 15. Correct. The fight for 15. And now here's the thing. This is why it's so interesting right now covering the markets, because it's like, all right, who's going to sell, right? What's the thing that's going to cause the sell-off? Because even for a technical retracement to happen, someone's got to sell the stock. And it's like, who's going to sell? And even if they do sell and it falls to 1380, is that bad? That's not that bad to me, right? So who's going to sell the stock? I don't know who in their right mind wants to sell any stocks right now, unless they're short, given just the momentum that exists. Apple is now a $2.89 trillion company at $183. Apple was at $172 for the majority of the past 2 weeks. Why is it at $183? Because investors are putting a lot of faith into WWDC and the announcement of a headset that is going to create the next S-curve of growth for Apple. I was watching the iPad 2010 conference. It was a big ass iPhone. It was a big fat iPhone, and Apple made it the most revolutionary product in the world because Apple knows how to market. So, I mean, I'm very excited to see what Apple's going to be able to do with this headset. If they end up making it what they think it can be, then, maybe investors give it a little more momentum. Morgan Stanley raised their price targets to 190 for Apple. And so we're going to see where that kind of goes from there. Now, the Saudis are cutting another 1 million barrels a day from OPEC, which is not really the best thing in the world, because we need to get oil down to $60 to really get inflation to start coming down. And that's not happening because the Saudis want to maintain oil at $80. And just at $80, they break even on their oil. So I've seen some people say this is rather insignificant. It's not that really big of a deal. And there's other people saying that, this is not the best thing in the world. Obviously, oil prices rising are not good for inflation. And it's also not good for people who have to pay for oil, right? And so OPEC pumps approximately 40% of the world's crude and policy decisions and they can have a significant impact. The world's top exporter, Saudi Arabia, announced further voluntary output. Again, this is voluntary. This is what they want to do. The kingdom's output will decline 9 million from 9 million barrels a day from around 10 million barrels in May. So there's 1 million barrels a day of cuts. Again, some people said it's not a big deal. Definitely not the best for inflation. So, I mean, CPI in June is going to be very important, which I think we're getting this week, right? CPI. Yeah, we're getting this week. We're getting on the 8th. We're getting I think we're getting it. Yeah, we should be getting it June 13th. Oh, so it's going to be okay. So next week, June 13th. And then the Fed's funds meeting is the June 14th. So we're going to be able to see where it goes from there. Wrong admit the Saudis break even at $50 a barrel. Oh, that's not what I heard today. I heard it was 80, but I may be incorrect about that. That's why they want to keep it at 80. That's what I heard. I might be wrong about that, but that's what I heard this morning. The bid and ask for Palantir are frozen. Yeah, it's very, I don't know what's going on here. Someone might be doing this. Amit, will you going live after WWDC? I will not. Let me put the channel in the chat. We have Carlos and Vitali, my co-hosts on Finance Junkies, a podcast I do. We have a channel that I'm going to link in the chat, and we go live on. We're going to go live on that channel. I probably won't be there, but they both will be there, and they will be going live. Tesla. Someone said they're up 400 or they're up 45%, which is amazing. That's awesome. Apple new record high. Yep, Apple for 2023. Well, is this an all-time high for Apple? Let me check this right now. Is this an Palantir at 1483? Wow, SoFi 750. We're about to get back there in a second. Apple is, I think this is an all-time high. Yeah. This is a 52-week high. This is all time. $183.80. The market's giving them the premium. The market is giving Apple that premium. Let's open up a Webull right here. Palantir at 1482 and SoFi at 755. My goodness, this is incredible, bro. This is absolutely incredible. Just amazing. This is a lot. This is a lot. If you had SoFi at $4.70, you're having a phenomenal run up as it inches towards. And again, SoFi is not even GAAP profitable yet. Look at that. SoFi is about to get beyond 750. It's going to go to 760. We'll see if it gets there. But SoFi is not even profitable yet. And again, Palantir, it's still doing this weird thing. You see this thing, 1460, 1480? Why is this happening? What is going on here? It hit 1490. That was the high today. Like, I don't understand it. I have no idea. Maybe I'm just a noob when it comes to this stuff, but I don't understand why it's doing that. I really don't. Shake my head. It's not that I am breaking it even on SoFi. It's not. It's now that I'm breaking even on SoFi. Yeah, look, it's tough to look. My break even on Palantir was 15, so it's we all gonna have to deal with it. But at the end of the day, we had opportunities to DCA, and you still have opportunities to DCA. Just a question of having the capital to be able to allocate there. Thank you, Amit. I would have never been well updated on Palantir without you. Timothy, thank you for being here. There is so much more news to cover today. We've got to go over the contract. If you're new here today, Palantir got a $463 million contract today. Multi-year contract with the U.S. Army to the military to implement AI infrastructures and LLMs. This is real shit that's going on, right? The military is not dishing out that much money for LLMs if they're not real. And we've got the C3 AI news to cover. Also, I got some interesting tips. This is why, thank you for everyone who messaged me on Twitter. I'm going to put my Twitter in the chat. Someone messaged me yesterday giving me a better reason. I'm putting Twitter in the description right now. Feel free to DM me whenever. For why Palantir invested in the SPACs. And this is a reason no one, and when I mean no one, including myself, has talked about for why they invested in the SPACs. Most people thought that Sham, who was the COO of Palantir, invested in SPACs. It was a shitty decision because most of the SPACs failed. Now, a couple of them are probably going to survive, and I think it actually produced some good returns like Lilium and Black Sky. I wouldn't invest in them. I would invest in Palantir because I would just use Palantir as an ETF to get exposure to those SPACs. But when the SPACs failed, he moved from chief operating officer to chief technology officer, right? That was the argument for why Sham moved up or moved down theoretically to CTO versus COO, because the SPACs was his call. I don't know if the SPACs was his call. I think the SPACs was Alex Karp's call. And I'm going to have a video coming out later explaining why. It's some real heavy due diligence someone sent me for why Peter Thiel likely picked Alex Karp in 2004. A lot of people think, oh, Peter Thiel was just a friend of Alex. And they're like, no. There was some meat behind Alex Karp's bones that led to Peter Thiel picking him to be the CEO. And as a result of that, the SPAC decision, again, you'll see in the video, kind of makes sense for why Alex Karp chose that strategy if Alex Karp did choose that strategy. So we're going to see a little bit more in the future. I mean, Palantir bought gold and they did well with that. They made $200,000 on the gold. I mean, the gold wasn't anything big for them. But they did make some money on that. For them, it was more so just a thing to park some money in a safe spot at the time. SoFi at 753, Apple at 183, AI up even a little bit with the AI mania, 2.57%. Again, Palantir fluctuating between 1480 and 1460. S&P at 428. Google 125. Meta down just a little bit at 271. Meta probably down today because Apple's announcement, which should normalize the VR space, is potentially going to get investors afraid that the metaverse, which has lost $49 billion in the past 10 years, might not be as successful as we thought it was going to be. And you got Tesla at 219. I mean, 220. Look at that, man. This is just amazing. Tesla's up 40% in a month, or 38%. So for those who have held Tesla, this is just a great job. I mean, you held it during the FUD at 162, and now it's being rewarded at 220. And I think a lot of this is happening because Elon doesn't have to worry about Twitter anymore, and it's becoming more and more clear, especially after the shareholder or the investor day, where it's kind of going from here. Have you heard about Microsoft Fabric? Could be a competition to Palantir Foundry. Yeah, look, Fabric is, I mean, I haven't done a deep dive on it yet, but Fabric is going to do what Teams does with Zoom and Google Meets, right? They're just going to sell and bundle it with their distribution. What enterprises are looking for is much more complex than an out-of-the-box solution that you can bundle with Microsoft Teams. I mean, they're looking for real consultations on how to adapt technology to their organizations, but then they're looking for the security, the guardrails, the auditability, the real integrated use, and the infrastructure of AI in their enterprises. And it's a big market. So even if Microsoft wants to take some share, there's going to be 5 or 6 companies, as Alex Karp says, that are going to win. One of the things he said about his pricing strategy that I thought was just phenomenal in the interview, I did a reaction to it on Sunday, was, how do you want shareholder or a customer to be incentivized with a company? So if a company says, hey, pay me and then I'll give you the software, is that better than let me give you the software and then you decide to pay me? Obviously, it's the latter, because if I say pay me first and then I'll work with you, I don't trust enough in my skills being good enough, no matter what I'm giving you as a transaction, because I want to get paid up front, right? And then I'll pay you, then I'll do the work, which is what he's calling these PowerPoint softwares. Versus, hey, we're going to give you the software, you can have it for 18 months, have some fun with it, and then tell us what it's worth and tell us if you can even dare live a day without it. It's going to be worth a lot more than any, contract you would set up in the beginning. And the alignment between the customer and the company so that you can upsell them on new things in the future will be so, beautiful. It's just like a CEO buying shares in the open market, like Anthony Noto. You feel confident. And at the end of the day, that's why Karp is like, we don't have a pricing strategy, because why the fuck do I need a pricing strategy? Like, our shit works. You're going to pay us what you think is worth. And that's going to happen. And so that's some of the momentum we're seeing right now in the context of Palantir. Let's take a look at a little bit more of the charts, and then we'll go into some other coverage. SoFi falling down just a little bit now. It's 743. Palantir at 1485 and 1469. Basically, it's hovering around both of those. C3 AI 32 and S&P at 428. All right, let's take a look at this clip that I wanted to talk about. Also highlighting a little bit more of what's going on in the macro. So this is kind of this is a fund manager that's speaking about why they've been surprised with growth tech and large tech stocks and why they're continuing to grow right now.
In the markets and their reaction to Friday's numbers, we want to bring in Cameron Dawson. She is Chief Investment Officer of New Edge Wealth. And what do you think, Cameron? Was this a Goldilocks number that means that the Fed is going to pause, but the economy is going to still have a soft landing?
I think it definitely was a Goldilocks reaction. I think that's the perfect name for it, because it's really a market that could have it all. It could have an easier, more dovish Fed talking about a pause, but then it didn't have what usually would come with an easier and more dovish Fed, which would be a slowdown in growth that would hit earnings. And so that does explain why the reaction in the market on Friday was very different than what we've seen in recent months, which was really just led by tech names and really a flight to safety. Instead, Friday was much more broad. It was including names like cyclicals, and we had much better performance out of the Dow, for example, than we saw out of the NASDAQ. And so that does reflect this optimism that growth is going to hold in better than expected. But then we'd ask the question that if you have better growth, really, would you get a more dovish Fed? And we don't think the answer is yes, just because inflation is remaining sticky.
And again, this is the hard part to understand. If you have better growth, do you get a Fed that's deciding to pause cuts or pause rates or have more cuts? If inflation's stickier, it's going to be hard for the Fed to do that, even with Q1 numbers being as good as they are. And the jobs report we got on Friday showing that we got more jobs when the Fed wanted less jobs also doesn't make it the best idea for the Fed to pause right now, in their opinion.
Which means that there is still upward pressure on interest rates likely to be had.
You think the Fed is going to pause at this next meeting or no?
I think they will, just because they've messaged it so much, but it might not be the biggest story coming out of the meeting. We'll get an update to the summary economic projections, which will likely include them raising their growth forecast, even though they might be pausing, and maybe lowering their unemployment forecast. They have a 4.5% unemployment rate marked down for 23. That likely is too high, even though we had that slight tick up on Friday. We'll also get an update to the dot plot, which will likely show more raises and less cuts in 23. agree. And so it's likely that the messaging coming out of the meeting might be more hawkish than the actual decision itself to pause. And that we do think if they pause in June, a July hike would be very, very likely.
And see, that's weird because some people are saying if they pause in June, and this is the analysis I heard over the weekend, that it's unlikely. The reason it's unlikely for them to raise in July, going against what this analyst just said, is because then the Fed doesn't seem like they know what the hell they're doing. Like if the Fed pauses in June and says, hey, we think things are okay and we're just going to wait it out. And then unless something catastrophic happens, like CPI goes up, right? Inflation goes up month over month. If they hike in July, why would you wait a month? It doesn't really make that much sense. And historically, the last time that's actually happened was back in the 80s. That hasn't happened since the 80s, where there was a pause and then a hike. And that signaled so much insecurity or insignificance in the Fed that a lot of people in the Fed, a lot of people just, the market didn't trust what the Fed was doing. I want to address this comment real quick. Duncan says, Alex at ticker symbol U will tell you to buy Weejo. Amit will pump Weejo wearing merchandise. You people really trust these people. Two things. I don't speak for ticker symbol U, so I don't really know about him. Number two, people have asked historically on the channel, should you buy any of the Palantir SPACs? I made a video a long time ago, and that has been my opinion since then, called you should not buy the Palantir SPACs because Palantir is an ETF for those SPACs. I'm going to link that video right now in the chat for anyone who wants to see it. My opinion has always been Weejo, Black Sky, whatever it is. I have always said I like Palantir over the SPACs, not because I didn't like the SPACs, but because Palantir it gave you exposure to the SPACs. And like, why would I invest in Weejo or Black Sky or Lilium when I can invest in Palantir and get all the upside of Palantir and some of the exposure to some of those other companies? In terms of wearing the merchandise, I mean, I'm wearing the Weejo hat right now. The hat just fits my head really nicely. I'm sorry, my head is small, but I like wearing the hat. Sorry about that. So for those who are asking about Weejo, it is not going bankrupt. It is being delisted from the NASDAQ stock exchange. Look, they SPACed at a time where companies really shouldn't have been SPACing in 2021, and they haven't really been able to survive. They're still operating. They're just being delisted because their stock price has been under $1. But again, my position has always been that, honestly, my position has been that the market, that you should get Palantir versus the SPACs, because Palantir is an ETF for those SPACs and you get more exposure. Palantir at $14.97. Okay, so we hit $15.56. What the heck is going on? So we hit $15.56. Palantir went to, yeah, I just saw that. So for everyone seeing it, I just saw that. $15.56. Okay, so this is really weird, right? Because we saw the crazy momentum from $14.60 to $14.80 in seconds, and now we just hit a flash of $15.56. I think there's some manipulation going on. I genuinely think this doesn't happen in a normal market, and retail's not doing this. There is something going on with the market makers as we teeter on 15 right now. The market makers, for those that don't know, are the people that control the bid-ask spread, right? So these are the citadels of the world. $15. They hold they control the basis for the price to even be determined in the first place. I mean, they're the real guys that control Wall Street. And so if we hit 15.56 for 2 seconds, I think something's going on. I don't know if it's bullish or bearish. I mean, it hit 15.56, so it's kind of bullish, right? But something's going on. Something's going on. Palantir now at a price to sales of $15 or $15.97. Look, price to sales, most companies don't get above like 12 on price to sales, if I'm not incorrect about that. Yeah, Meta is at a price to sales of 6. Google's at a price to sales of 5. Apple, there's probably, I think, like 10 or something. Price to sales of 7. Palantir is now at a price to sales of, look at that, 15, 14. At 16, their price to sales. Again, that 16 price to sales is a little bit inflated. It's a lot. But if Palantir can grow into this valuation because AI truly is where the market is going, then you've got an argument for Palantir to continue to hold on to its momentum. This is crazy though, bro. This is wild. Okay, SoFi coming back down to 744. Palantir now at $15.19. Wow. And it's holding. It was at $15.22 for just a little bit on Friday, but it's holding now. It's holding a little bit. We just broke even. We did indeed break even. 15.24 is my breaking point. That's amazing. You're so close. Bid-ask spread looks fine. So definitely a glitch. Yeah, it might be a glitch. I mean, a glitch happens as well in the market. Sachin just bought more. The AI is in control. That's the best answer. The AI is in control. Or institutions are loading up, potentially Enovix, or not Enovix, potentially Kathy. Now at 15.30. Let's go to Enovix real quick. Enovix at 13.01, so it's down 8%. Potentially Kathy. Wow, 15.35. man, I don't even know what to say. Like, this is just, it's doing its thing. It's doing its thing, and I'm enjoying the fucking ride. Oh, this is so cool. It's just, I was more excited on 13 or 14 because like those were like territories I never thought we'd see in so long. And now at 15, it's almost a little bit, I'm feeling desensitized to it. I'm not as emphatic about it because now I'm just looking at it. It's like that kid you raised and they're officially starting to go out into the real world, and you let them do what they need to do. Wow. Palantir up 5.8%. The overall market today, who's buying Palantir, bro? Because again, Palantir is not NVIDIA. Their guidance and their growth is not even anywhere near that. So there has to be some whale. There has to be some bigger institution that's either watching my videos and is like, holy shit, Amit's a fucking genius. He realized this was going to happen. Or they're doing their own due diligence. Some whale has found out something about Palantir and they're loading up. And that is the reason the price is going up. That is the only reason. Because, well, only reason in the context of someone has to be buying the stock, right? Like someone has to be buying for a company that has 2 billion shares and is already at a $32 billion market cap for it to keep moving forward. Someone has to be buying. And I don't know who it is. Maybe it's the bear cave. Maybe they decided they were wrong and they stepped out of the cave and they're buying. I don't know who's buying, but someone's buying. And as a result of that, we're seeing the market go up. It's ChatGPT. Oh, this was a good. So I put a tweet out this week. And by the way, again, if you're not following me on Twitter, please, the one thing I ask for you, only thing today, follow on Twitter. If you're not on Twitter, make a Twitter. Support free speech. It is the only free speech platform left. Please make a Twitter account. It takes 2 seconds, and follow my Twitter in the description in the chat. I put a tweet on Twitter saying that the NASDAQ was down 35% peak to trough. Okay, 35% peak to trough. And then ChatGPT went mainstream in February. Think about that. The NASDAQ, the total, the composite of all these companies in America was down 35%, damn near 40% for the year. And then AI innovation saved the day. Because once ChatGPT made things deflationary, once people became so much more productive and the market started recognizing, oh crap, the deflationary effects and the productivity around GDP and economic advancements was going to really start to get into a new level of AI is what crypto said it would be. Then why are we not buying stocks? And that's why every company started filtering their AI strategy towards Wall Street. And so ChatGPT kind of saved the day. And it is absolutely correct to say they saved the market. If we continue and we don't end up in some massive crash, then OpenAI, Sam Altman, is the reason for why Palantir is doing as well and why the market's doing as well. SoFi now at 743, Palantir at 1515. Who's buying Palantir? That's the question. What whale is buying Palantir? There's got to be, I want to call. So I met with a hedge investment fund. I've told this story many times on live that has a lot of $1 million of Palantir, right? Their average is at $5 for their clients. They bought it in 2018. They got it on the private market. They came with me. They invited me to come into their office. I consulted with them about Palantir. And the manager of that fund was so pissed after Q4. Like he was so mad about the SPACs. He was so mad about CARP. He was so mad about everything. He was happy the stock went from 7 to 10 in January, but or whenever it ran up back then. But he was so mad about about just how earnings are going, the declining in growth. But he didn't sell Palantir because he said, in my heart of hearts, I fucking believe they're doing something different. And it was so funny because the whole time we were arguing back and forth respectfully. And then I was like, man, why aren't you just selling it? You keep giving me a bear case. And he was like, I just think they're going to figure it out. And it was just so funny. He must be ecstatic. I want to give him a call and just talk to him. I wish I could call him and be like, so how are you feeling? Because Palantir was at 7 when we were talking. Now it's at 15. His clients must be ecstatic. His clients must be wanting to sell. He said our biggest problem is going to be when Palantir has the run up to convince our clients to not sell the fucking stock. Because he knows that like it's going to be hard to do that. So we'll see what happens. Hey, Amit, what do you think about Chicken Genius who sold Palantir at $9.70? Let me say this. Not all chickens are geniuses. That's all I've got to say. No, in reality, look, he made $100,000. That was if Chicken Genius had. Let's just calculate his money. He put $300,000 at $7, right? Let's call it $7.40. I think that's when he bought. $300,000 divided by $7.40. That means he had 40,540 shares. Let's multiply that by 1527 right now. The guy would have 619,000 versus his 100,000 gain. So he would have made another $300,000. Chose not to do it, but it is what it is. That's what he did. So you can't be mad at someone making $100,000, but if he actually knew or believed in the thesis of Palantir, he probably would have held it a lot more. It's proof now that the market is almost impossible. Chicken will probably humble more. I don't think Chicken's ever going to be humble, bro. He got the Tesla short wrong. He got Palantir wrong. He got so many things wrong. He got the overall market wrong. Remember back in 2022, that's when he quit YouTube. Like, again, all respect to the dude, but He's gotten it wrong so many times, not because he's an idiot, but because getting the market right is really hard. I mean, if Buffett and Peter Lynch and all these other guys can't really do it, Chicken Genius is not going to do it. I'm not going to do it, right? So I think that's the reason why it's been down. Thank you, Albarella, for the $2. I think this is a euro or it might be a pound. I think it's a euro. Super chat. Palantir is undervalued at $15, $20 to $25 soon. Let's see. Let's see where we get there. Let's see. Hi, Amit. Your thoughts on TFC? I've given my thoughts on TFC a lot. Me and Chris were talking about TFC when it was $26. TFC was lumped in. Let me just look at the chart real quick. As a regional, look at the chart. Look how insane this chart is. The last time TFC got to $20 was during COVID, and then in 2016 there was a manufacturing recession. The only other time it got back down to that $25 range, well, in the past 6 years, was because of the Silicon Valley Bank regional banking crisis. The TFC has $420 billion in deposits. It has thousands of branches. It has 55% of its depositors as small businesses. This stock does not belong to the regional banking crisis, which is why, you know, the market has responded pretty aggressively, bringing it to $31 from 25, because it never deserved to be here. It got lumped in and it cracked. And as a result of that, it was massively undervalued. Their price to book is at like 6, and a bank's price to book should be at around 12. So, I mean, at the end of the day, the TFC is undervalued, and they pay an 8% dividend. So I think TFC is a great play right now. Palantir, $15.30. The momentum is remaining. I'm waiting to see if it falls down a little bit, but it's holding up. SoFi at $7.44 as we're seeing it. The bear cave got out and is now buying. What is your reasoning for a pullback? Okay, my reasoning for a pullback is as follows. The growth, Palantir now at $15.35. The growth is 18% year over year. If Q2 we don't get a guidance upwards of growth, which honestly I don't think is going to happen. I think we're going to get the guidance upwards of growth. The market's going to realize this is a company barely growing 20% year over year, and it's valued at $32 billion, maybe making $2 billion in revenue, price of sales of around 15. So if that's the case, it's a bit overvalued. But now the hard part to manufacture here, and that's why it's kind of complicated on if you should sell, which honestly, I don't think personally, if you're asking me, I think this is a 20-30 play. I don't even think selling is, I think it's just stupid right now. Because even if it goes back down, then you buy up. You've seen Palantir has been able to go to 15. If it goes down to 11 or 10, all right, get some of the dip and wait till it comes back again. Like, have a good time. If Carp is saying that they're getting more demand than they've gotten in a year for this product, and we're seeing the use cases of this product, and they got $463 million from this product today from the U.S. military, you got to start to ask yourself, I don't think he's lying about demand. And if Alex Karp, let me say this now, if Alex Karp is not lying about demand, and Palantir has a monster quarter or even a decent quarter, and they guide upwards because the growth is there, they actually can become that 60, 70% quarter over quarter growth company we think they can become, or even hell, 30 to 40%, forget 60 or 70. This stock's going to the fucking moon. That's going to happen. The problem is we don't know if that's going to happen. And this is why you have to be very cautious here. And, you know, I wouldn't go all in here because you don't know if that's going to happen. If that does not happen, it will come down. It's just the nature of how the market operates. If the market decides that NVIDIA is not worth it anymore, Palantir is going to suffer from that. If NVIDIA goes down to $300, Palantir will suffer. Palantir, C3, all these AI stocks will suffer. So a lot of things are hinging on external factors. The one thing Palantir can control is growth. The question is if they're going to be able to control that growth. That's what we're going to be able to see. Why did they guide so low then? You know, I think they guided low, because the same reason they said Palantir, they wouldn't be profitable by 2025. I think they wanted to sandbag and then surprise. And so they became profitable 2 years earlier than what they guided, which was really good. If they guide, earnings are going to be really good. And also they were GAAP profitable. So I think they knew that the market would react positively, even if the guidance was bad, because they showed GAAP profitability and they beat by 19 million in Q1 for revenue. So it's either they're trying to be conservative or they're sandbagging. The problem is we don't know. The only thing you can know is that the momentum is there and it's their market to get. Okay. Amit, I have a question for you. Let's say 6 quarters from today, growth has not accelerated and GAAP profitability is more or less maintained or growing very slowly. Does it change your thesis? Yes. Correct. This is the time for Palantir to grow. It is that simple. This is the time. In the next 6 quarters, so you're talking about by 2024 Q3, right? Yeah, 2024 Q3. If they are not growing at a pretty substantial rate, the question is why? And either they're going to blame the macro, which it doesn't seem like you can blame the macro, or the demand just isn't there. And if demand, it will change the thesis. I don't know if it's a sell the company. I think maybe it's just it's a Salesforce growth versus like a Tesla S-curve growth, which most of us has assumed it's always going to be a Salesforce growth. But the hype that we're seeing in AI makes us think maybe it's a Tesla S-curve growth. So the thesis changes in terms of how quickly a return might happen. I don't think the thesis changes for the company. The growth will just be slower and it'll be a Salesforce-like return over time. And we'll see if it happens. Oh yes, we have hit 700 people. Thank you, 700 for being here. I've got to ring the bell to celebrate 700. For those that are new to the channel, I ring the bell when we hit a pretty big what do you call it? When we hit a milestone on the live stream. I've got to share this tweet, by the way, real quick, just because all 700 of you are here, and I appreciate the hell out of 700 people being here. I tweeted this over the weekend. I cannot for the life of me understand how some creators take their audiences for granted, shilling them garbage, constantly promoting whatever they can for a quick buck, not valuing the time they give to you. What is wrong with you? If you're lucky enough to have some subset of people on the planet, like 700 people right now, actually care about what you have to say and look forward to reading, watching, listening to you, and occasionally support you with their time or dollars, how could you take that for granted? The one thing I understood about content after not being able to do it successfully for 10 years is that I would do my best to never take advantage of an audience. It's why I get so excited to ring a cowbell. People's attention is limited. They can only give it to so many things. To take advantage of that, and I'm not talking about clickbait. I'm talking about much worse than manipulating a title or thumbnail. Is just one of the most sad, ungrateful, and narcissistic things a content creator can do. So to the people that are here, I appreciate you very deeply. There was a world where, there were 0 people here, not 700. And so it's super awesome to have people here and actually support. And I'm very grateful for that, because the one thing people have is limited is time, and who they choose to spend it with matters a lot. So thank you all for being here. I wonder what triggered you to post this. Some people might know, but let's just say I was definitely triggered in the moment, and I was like, I have to post this. This is just insane what I'm seeing with some content creators. Apple at 183, Google at 127, Meta at 272, C3 AI at 32, Palantir at 1532, S&P 428, SoFi 746, Snowflake also 177. It's down from 180 that it was on Friday. Microsoft at 336, Enphase 181, nice run up from 150. Let's look at the 3-month on Enphase. It was 152, down from 230. Down to 152, and it's rallied back up to 181. Next quarter will be slow growth or negative growth for Enphase because of interest rates. The CEO has already said that, so next quarter is still going to be tough, but Q3, Q4, we should get back to normal growth. NASDAQ at 13,000, and PayPal at $63.77, up from the lows of 59. Zoom's very interesting. Apparently, I listened to Kathy's thesis. She was on a podcast this weekend, and her thesis was that intra communications in a company, like you Zooming with the finance guy and you're the marketing guy, is not a big market for Zoom. Inter communications, meaning you Zooming from Microsoft to Palantir because you want to sell Palantir some software, is where Zoom controls 40% of enterprise communications. It's a $1.3 trillion market. And I didn't know that. So Kathy's argument for Zoom, her price target is 1,500 base case. Bear case is 700 by 2026, is that Zoom controls the intercommunications enterprise market, and the AI applications they've been building for the past 2 years is going to accelerate their ability to sell into enterprises. Right now, the growth is not that great on Zoom, but that's what Kathy's thesis is. The reason I'm interested in Zoom is because it is number 2 in the ARK Invest portfolio. It's almost $1 billion she has in that company. So Zoom's pretty big. Amit, if I had to choose Enphase or TFC, it really depends on what you're looking for. Again, this is not financial advice. That you ultimately have to make your own decision. If you're looking for something more in the growing stages, then Enphase is not a bad company to DCA into over the long term. If you're looking for a regional bank that has collapsed, that likely will get back to $45 from my hypothesis, given that is where the mean that it was at over the next couple of years, then I think TFC is a safe bet as well. But Enphase is growing phenomenally. Again, you got to do some due diligence into why they're growing. Don't buy Enphase if you don't know what a microinverter is. And don't buy TFC if you don't know the percentage of deposits that are small businesses putting their money into the bank. That's a cool thing, right? Like next time, if someone asks me this question, that's what I'm going to say. Don't buy X stock if you don't know this, which is like the most pivotal thing of the stock, Enphase and microinverters. And don't buy TFC if you don't know this, which is that 55% of their depositors are small businesses, which is why the likelihood of a bank run is it's just not going to happen. And they have a 15-year on average relationship with all of their clients, which is why a bank run just likely won't happen. So if you don't know those things, again, don't buy any of them. But those were that's my logic. Sean, we love you. I appreciate it. You're a good guy, Amit. Ryan, appreciate it. We choose you. I appreciate it, Myra. Thank you all so much for being here. It means a lot. Funny how literally 3 weeks ago, 300 was a lot of people. Now AI blows up. You hit the algorithm and hitting 700 people. You know, that's kind of how content creation is. The thing about this comment though, is you've got to be there for that to happen. So you are correct. In order to get momentum and growth, just like Palantir is getting momentum and growth. You know, it's such a good analogy right here. Palantir, Karp was talking about, the interviewer asked him like, hey, well, now the stock is up because of AI. And what do you think? And Karp, like, he was so like, he was kind of dismissive of it because he was like, bro, what you're talking about, we've been doing for 20 years. The market just didn't get it yet. And I believe him. I really believe him as I'm seeing these conferences, these presentations at AIPCon. What people think about AI and LLM, Palantir is building the ontology for, which is essentially the synergy behind all of those things over the past decade in a meaningful way, but nothing revolutionized it like ChatGPT. Just like people were building social networks, but until you really had like Facebook, or until you really had MySpace and Friendster, you kind of had some things to have to happen before that could happen. You needed a credit card infrastructure. You needed PayPal before you had Amazon, right? You needed some really important things to happen before you had some other big innovations. So same thing like this. Before we get 700 people, you've got to be making content for 10 people, 20 people, 30 people, 40 people. I remember before we hit like 5,000 subscribers or to 8,000 subscribers, I was doing a live stream and there were 70 people there for 2 hours and I was talking to 70 people. And I think those are the moments where you build intimacy and connection, and you have to fucking love what you're doing in order to get the benefit of the growth as it comes. Because you can't control the market. You can't control the bull or bear cycle, but you can control how much work you put in. It's the same thing with Palantir. That wasn't me being a jerk. No, I agree, Greg. I'm not saying you were a jerk there. I'm actually, that comment was really good because it showcases what it means to grow. Same thing with owning stocks, right? Like if you're up right now and you're green, you deserve it because you held through the time when you didn't, when everyone was saying it was a shitty company, it's a shitty stock, it wasn't real, it's an imposter, etc. And when you're there, when no one else is there, when you take the path less traveled, eventually things might end up going your way. It's still a risk. It's still a risk. YouTube's a risk. Palantir's a risk. But sometimes you got to take a risk, and there may be outsized rewards to take that risk. Palantir falling now just a little bit at 1509. It's crazy, right? I'm saying it's falling, and it's at 1510. S&P at 427, unhinged. SoFi falling down a little bit at 738. And so the market cooling down just a little bit, but still pretty high as we're seeing it right now. Yeah, these... I have a lot of SoFi options. Let me just say that I have above $20,000 in SoFi options, and I'm planning to buy more. I had a bunch of orders set today. They did not end up executing. They didn't end up executing because this motherfucker rallied as soon as the market opened. I usually set my limit orders for at like 8:30, and I'm like, all right, let's just see if it happens. And on Wednesday last week, it executed, and I got some really fucking good prices. And then it rallied right before it executed. But now, the rally is continuing, and it's a little bit hard for them to execute. Jesse Dow, thank you for the super chat. For those that don't know Jesse Dow, if you type in his name on Twitter, amazing analysis on stocks, and definitely a lot of good technical analysis as well. My question just now, Enphase or TFC, seems like I choose Vitaly or Chris. I love that. That's hilarious. For those that are familiar with finance junkies, Vitaly is more Enphase, Chris is more TFC. So Chris is just more regional banks undervalued. Vitaly is more growth and like really good growth companies. And so that's the difference. Great work, Amit. Thank you a lot, and keep it up. Regards from Germany. Thank you for being here. Amit, I've been watching you for the last year every day. Wow. That's amazing, Greg. I appreciate you so much. Thank you. Thank you for being here. AIP is a lighter to the LLM cigarette. That is correct. And Palantir just might end up making a lot of those packages. And that's the big thing. Palantir might end up really doing it. Oh, the internet died. I'll be on for like another 5 more minutes, and then I'll head out of here. We've got Apple's WWDC conference today, so it's going to be a big deal for Apple, and we're going to see what it goes from there. What is also impressive about Palantir and SoFi is the way that it's been so strong lately, despite IWM being super sloppy. There is no momentum in small mid-cap. That's very true. I mean, the momentum in small mid-cap is pretty much dead. If we go to DraftKings, let's see if DraftKings is up. They might be doing decently, but a lot of small caps, yeah, they're up. They're barely up. I mean, DraftKings is down pretty badly. I'm assuming some other. Let's go to Fubo. Is Fubo up? Fubo's barely up. Obviously, TTCF has been destroyed. Honest. How about that one? That one's down. Yeah, a lot of the small caps are getting crushed. And so Palantir and SoFi, SoFi is more of a small cap than Palantir, even though 30 billion compared to the bigger ones is definitely a small cap. It's not 4 or 5 billion. SoFi's market cap now is at 6.9 billion. But they're definitely smaller in comparison to a lot of the other major ones. Tesla at 217 as the market continues to rally. I'm so lucky to find about Palantir when I did. My average is 849. So whereas that is a win for me. That's amazing. I'm so happy for the people. Like I found SoFi at a pretty low average. I didn't find Palantir at a low average. But for those that are finding Palantir at a low average, congrats, because this is it might be just a once in a generational company, and you got it cheap. And so we'll see where it goes from there. If you come to Greece, send a message. I will absolutely send you a message, Petros. I got you. All right, everybody. That's it for me. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you all. I have a couple of videos coming out today. One talking about the new Palantir $463 million deal with the Army. Very important to understand why they got that deal. Second, C3 AI, a Palantir competitor, is being investigated for fraud by the investigator who investigated Theranos. So also a very important video to watch. We'll have the Palantir Daily Shareholders Meeting at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is happening every single day, live stream. And then after that, we will do Finance Junkies at 10 p.m. to discuss all the news for the day. That's it. My average is 15 on Palantir. So for those that are asking, my average is 15. Last thing I'm going to post in the chat, please, before you leave, follow on Twitter. Again, there is a really big Palantir and SoFi community on Twitter. So the one thing I think, if you guys just want better updates on what's going on in the news, is Twitter. It's in the chat and also in the description right now. All right. That's it. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you. Thank you for spending your time with me in the morning. It means the world. It's the best way to wake up every morning, talking to 700 people. And I hope you all have a great day. Yes, I did hit profit today. I hit profit on Palantir. All right, everybody. Good night, and I'll see you later today. Bye-bye.